Welcome to Manifest Beyond Limits, the podcast that helps you break free from fear and self-doubt so you can create a life filled with abundance, joy, and fulfillment. I'm your host, DaNajah, manifestation coach, speaker, and believer in limitless possibility. Each week, we'll dive into the mindset shifts, energetic principles, and manifestation tools that help you step into your power and design a reality that truly lights you up. Because here, we believe there are no limits, and anything is possible. You ready? Let's manifest beyond limits. Welcome back to episode 5 of the Manifest Beyond Limits podcast. I can't believe we're already 5 weeks in, and I'm genuinely so grateful for every download, every share, and every message from those of you who have been listening and loving the show. It means more than you know. So as you can see from today's title, we're diving into a huge topic in the manifestation world, money mindset. And money is one of the most common things that people want to manifest more of. And honestly, it's also one of the most misunderstood. So this is an episode that I've had on my list for a while, but recently I've been seeing so many posts and conversations on social media that felt like, okay, this needs to be talked about right now. So today I'm breaking down 10 phrases that are no longer in my wealth vocabulary. Words and statements that seem harmless, but actually shape your identity and your energy and ultimately your financial reality. Most people don't realize how deeply these phrases affect their money flow, their decisions, and ultimately how they see themselves. And so by the end of this episode, you're going to start catching on to these phrases in real time and shifting into a mindset that's aligned with abundance instead of lack. So the first phrase is I'm broke or I'm poor. And this one is honestly one of the most dangerous phrases that you can use when it comes to your financial reality. What most people don't realize is that you don't attract what you want, you attract what you believe about yourself to your core. Your identity is like a magnet. So the problem with saying I'm broke or I'm poor isn't that you're acknowledging a moment in your finances. It's that you're identifying with it. So you're not viewing your financial challenges as temporary. You're taking them on as who you are. And that is exactly why people who see themselves as poor tend to stay poor, and people who see themselves as wealthy tend to rebuild that wealth again and again. So let me give an example. A billionaire could lose everything tomorrow, and within a year or two, they would find a way to rebuild it. So why is that? Because no matter what their bank account looks like in the moment, they still identify with the mindset, the energy, and the self-concept of a wealthy person. They know it's just a temporary dip in their timeline, in their reality. But someone who constantly says, I'm broke or I'm poor, or this is just my life, is aligning with an identity that expects nothing to change. They're projecting that same identity into their future. So instead of saying, I'm broke or I'm poor, shift to, I'm being intentional with my spending right now, or I'm prioritizing money differently at the moment. It's a completely different energy, and that tiny shift will dramatically change the way that you experience money in your reality. So, phrase number 2 is, I can't afford that. And this is really another common one that people say automatically without realizing how limiting it is. And the issue with this phrase is that it creates this identity and not a temporary moment. When you say, I can't afford that, you're not just describing where you are right now. You're identifying as someone who could never afford that. So think about it like this. If I wanted to buy a yacht one day, I'm not going to walk around saying, I can't afford that. Instead, I would say, that's not aligned with me right now. There is a huge difference between this isn't aligned for me in this moment versus I'm the kind of person who can't have that. One keeps the door open and the other slams it shut. So you're not telling your brain, this is not possible for me. You're telling your brain, yeah, this isn't a priority right now, but it's not off the table for the future. So it keeps you in this state of possibility instead of lack. So instead, you have to choose a language that's going to honor where you are without restricting where you're going or what's possible for you in the future. Phrase number 3 is, that's expensive. And the reason I don't like this phrase is because the word expensive is completely subjective. What's expensive to one person may not be expensive to another. Or what feels expensive to someone making $50,000 a year is not going to feel expensive to someone making $1 million a year. So when you say that's expensive, what you're actually doing is revealing your self-concept around money. And this phrase goes hand in hand with I can afford that. It all comes back to whether you're operating from a frequency of abundance or a frequency of lack. So even if something isn't aligned with my current priorities, I don't label it as expensive. Instead, I'm going to use words like premium, luxurious, high-end, top tier, high value. Those words hold a completely different energy. Because to me, the word expensive carries this negative connotation. It implies that something is too much or out of reach or it's not meant for you. But in reality, it's simply just a different price point in exchange for a different level of value. The only reason that something feels expensive is because of your perceived value and your current identity. So for example, Starbucks is often labeled as expensive coffee, but it's not actually expensive. It's just the perceived value that the company has intentionally created for their brand. So when you shift from that's expensive or to that's premium or that's high end, you're going to stop reacting from lack and start viewing money through this lens of value and choice and empowerment. So phrase number 4 is, I never have enough. And I know I sound like a broken record at this point, but all of these phrases come back to the same thing, your self-concept and the way that you see yourself. So when you say, I never have enough, the word never is so definitive. It's final and certain. And here's the thing that most people don't realize. Your brain operates off certainty. It doesn't know the difference between something that's real and something you've repeated enough times for it to finally accept it as truth. So when you say, I never have enough, you're not describing a circumstance. You're literally programming this repeated pattern. And you're reinforcing a cycle where you literally never feel like you have enough, no matter how much money flows in. So this is why people can make more money, they can get a raise, sign more clients, receive all of these blessings, and still feel like it's not enough because their identity hasn't shifted. This is why someone can make $1 million and still operate in survival mode and believe that they're lacking. So instead of using this language that's going to lock you into this identity of scarcity, start speaking from possibility and abundance. Start telling yourself, I am abundant. I am a money magnet. Money is always flowing to me. I receive money in expected and unexpected ways. I always have enough. Actually, I have more than enough. These aren't just affirmations, these are statements that become your identity. They teach your brain what to expect, and your reality is going to begin to shift to match that expectation. Phrase number 5 is must be nice. And a lot of times when people say this phrase, they say it jokingly or kind of playfully, casually. And most people don't even realize what their brain is feeling or believing subconsciously when they say it. But when I hear this phrase, it immediately comes off as comparison, jealousy, and limitation, even if the person isn't consciously or intentionally feeling that way. Because when you say must be nice, you're comparing your situation to someone else's. And we all know the saying, comparison is the thief of joy. You're also operating from this frequency of jealousy and limitation by assuming that someone else has something that you can't have, when in reality, there is nothing on this planet that someone else has that you couldn't also have too. So when you say must be nice, what you're really telling yourself is, they can have it, but I can't. That's for them, but not me. This phrase exposes where your limitations are and what you believe is possible for yourself. Because if you didn't desire that thing, you wouldn't feel the need to comment on it or to say must be nice. So instead, shift your language to something like, that's great for them. If they can have it or do it, I can have it one day as well. That's just evidence that it's getting closer to me, that it's coming my way. These statements keep you in this frequency of possibility and abundance instead of lack and comparison. So I'm going to wrap up here. I can already tell this episode is getting a little long, so I'm going to save the second half of these money phrases for next week's episode, because I really want you to sit with the ones that we've talked about today, and I want you to have the space to integrate them before we move into the next 5. So before we go, I want to share something I am really excited about. My membership, the Manifest Beyond Limits movement, officially launched today, and these are the exact types of conversations that we'll be diving into inside the community. Things like your self-concept, your money mindset, your abundance identity, manifestation, and the inner shifts that are required for you to live the life that you desire. And so if today's episode resonated with you, if you're realizing that your language, your identity, or your beliefs around wealth need to shift, or if you're ready to deepen your mindset in a supportive space, then this membership is really where that transformation happens. So I would love to have you inside if you feel called to join. And all of the details are going to be put below in the show notes. And that's it for today. So I'll talk to you in next week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Manifest Beyond Limits. I hope you're leaving feeling inspired, empowered, and ready to take aligned action toward your next level. If this episode spoke to your heart, it would mean the world if you shared it with someone who needs to hear it, or left a quick review to help more beautiful souls find this space. And if you'd like to stay connected, you can find me on Instagram at Manifest Beyond Limits, or visit manifestbeyondlimits.com to dive deeper into my world. And remember, you are powerful, you are supported, and there are no limits to what you can create. With that being said, go out there and manifest a life that's truly beyond limits.